Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. Today we're actually on the test server, and let me turn it on. There we go, boom, test server. We're actually on the Raid Shadow Legends test server right now because I don't have enough books on the live servers, and I want to do a showcase for you here today, a guide for Yakarl the Scourge. A lot of people are probably going to be getting Yakarl the Scourge sometime this week, right? He is available for fragments in the clan shop. I'm actually not sure if I can see that here on the test server. I can, there we go. So this is a champion you can start collecting fragments for pretty early on in the game, you know, depending on what level clan you can get into, maybe a couple of months or so into the game. And yeah, he is a Void Legendary attack-based champion. Let's take a look and see, is he actually any good? How would you build him? What can you expect out of him? Who's he going to be good for? So, his A1, the Axe of All Winter. Bearing in mind as well, in case you haven't seen Yakarl since he came out, he has been buffed since he came out. So his kit's a good bit better now than it used to be. This is a double hitter. Each hit is a 40 bucks to a 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn. So on average, roughly about 75% chance you're going to freeze on that A1. Will ignore 25% of the target's defense against targets under freeze debuff. So this will hit extremely, extremely hard if anyone is frozen. His A2, Blizzard Rider, attacks one enemy, 75% chance of placing a decreased speed debuff for 3 turns, and a 75% chance, both of these booked to 100%, of placing freeze for 1 turn. So he's going to come in single target attack. This hits very, very hard. It's going to place decreased speed. It's going to place freeze. Steals 100% of the target's turn meter. Places an increased speed buff on this champion for 3 turns as well. Pretty fantastic. Ignores 50% of the target's defense against targets under freeze debuffs. 3 turn cooldown. This is a massive single target nuke. It hits hard just by default, and it hits extremely hard if the target is frozen. Then, yeah, again, it's doing some nice stuff here. This has some pretty cool utility for the Fire Knight dungeon, for the Dark Fae as well, right? Because you're stealing that turn meter off of that boss. That can be very, very helpful. Of course, this stuff being useful in Arena too. Then it's A3 Glaciate, 4 turn cooldown when booked. Attacks all enemies, 75% chance of placing freeze for 1 turn. It's a 100% chance against targets with 75% or more turn meter, and it cannot be resisted by targets with 75% or more turn meter. So that's what makes this move very, very special. Not only is it an AoE nuke, and it hits reasonably hard, definitely not the hardest hitting, fairly average hitting nuke, I would say, overall for AoE nukers, but it's a decent nuke. You're sort of trading in that massive damage potential that something like a Trunda or a Hefrak would have. You're trading in that crazy damage for lower damage, but really good utility. An irresistible freeze. 100% chance to land it against targets with high turn meter. Very, very useful for Arena in particular. Then his passive, Lord of Ice. The passive effect is going to increase the damage he deals by 10% for every champion in battle under a freeze debuff. I believe this does include your own team as well. And it will decrease the damage he receives by 10% for each champion in battle under a freeze debuff. And then he has an active effect with a 3 turn cooldown. Gives him unkillable for 1 turn whenever he kills an enemy under a freeze debuff. So I mean, like if he hits a frozen enemy with Blizzard Rider, they're pretty much just going to fall over dead. He also has a 33% attack in all battles aura, which is one of the best auras in the game. Very useful, very versatile, really strong. Yeah, great one there. So how are we going to build him? Well, I think the way that you build him is actually reasonably straightforward. Because he has this ignore defense stuff built in, we really want to double down on that to max it out. So we are going to be building him in a Savage set here. Then there's 2 different ways, I think, to go with this build, which is quite interesting. And it really comes down to your choice of footwear when it comes to Yakarl. So we're generally speaking, we're going to be throwing him into things like attack percentage chest. I've got a pretty bad attack percentage Savage chest. It's the best I've got. It's pretty bad though. But attack percent chest, you're going to want crit damage gloves. And then we're going to be looking for gear with, crit damage, attack percent, crit rate, maybe a bit of speed, that sort of thing. Now the question when it comes to his boots is going to be, do you go for attack percent or do you go for speed? It's going to put you in 2 different ballparks here, roughly speaking. So you'd hopefully be aiming for, about 170-ish speed. That's your typical slow nuker. And that's a really good sort of speed to aim for with attack percent boots. Or you could aim for higher speed. You could aim for like 200, 210 speed. Have him be much faster. And obviously you're going to sacrifice a good bit of attack for that. And the idea is, do you want him to sort of more consistently come in and do this AoE freeze, or do you want him to sometimes do this, but to sort of more consistently kill people and nuke them down? And it's a bit of a toss-up. It's going to depend as well on what freeze champions you have that you can pair with Yakarl too. Obviously, you're going to go for attack on the ring with as much attack percent as you can, crit damage necklace with as much accuracy as you can to help him land the debuffs, which are resistible. Like this A1 freeze is resistible. So is his A2 stuff, all resistible. Accuracy is good. And then we're going to give him an attack banner with attack percent and some speed. You could even give him an accuracy banner if you wanted to. For the masteries, I think you'd be building him something like this. So coming down the defense tree with some retaliation stuff. His A1 is really good. Like it's got a really good chance to freeze and it hits hard. So I think it's worthwhile to put him down the defense tree for that. Then offense tree, we're going to be grabbing the crit rate, obviously more damage to shields. Ruthless ambush, bigger hits first hit. And then opportunist is actually really good for him. 12% more damage to targets with freeze. That's the big thing there that we want. More damage against low health targets, more damage against targets higher max HP. We're going to get him kill streak, and we're going to get him helm smasher as well. So fairly standard stuff across the board. Yeah, let's go see him in some content. All right, cool. So I pre-built a couple of teams here. We're going to see him in 2 different setups. We are on the test server, so we're going up against some extremely difficult opponents. This is like platinum level opponents like Rats and Scratch and all the rest. This one looks quite nasty. I mean, we could give this a go. Let's try this one out, I suppose. So we were testing some Raka stuff before. So what I'm thinking is, this is actually quite, we're going to have to mix up the team actually even more from what I had going in here. Okay, let's take this team and let's actually switch out Tormin. We're going to test him out with some freezing. Let's test him out like this. So the idea of this team is to try fight this team. So obviously we've got some really endgame stuff. Let's dive in. Let's see. So we should be faster, right? Let's give it a go. They've got loads of stone skin as well. So we're going to increase our attack and turn meter boost us. Increase accuracy from Yoshi so that Ramantu can actually strip some of these buffs and block some of these passives. Now, unfortunately, we didn't block the passive right here, which makes that rather terrifying. Going to speed boost with Arbiter. And then we're going to come in with the irresistible freeze. The problem right here is that we're going to die because we've got a protection set. Nekret has protected... he's protected our boy over here, Cupidus. So Cupidus is going to murder us right now, but we'll come in and you can see that freeze, and now we're all going to die to Cupidus because of protection set. So yeah, like I said, we got some pretty tough teams. Let's try that. We could try that again against this team right here. Yeah, this sort of concept might work over here. You know, my gear is not equal to the gear of a lot of the test server guys. So, you know, we're going to do our best, but we're certainly not guaranteed to win. Hence why we're using Romancy. We do lock them out. Gets cleansed off, but now we can come in and we get the freeze. So that's actually one nice thing that Yakarl does right there. You can see he tried to nuke, you know, he tried his best. He nuked as much as he could. We'll strip off at least some of these buffs. I think we will come in and try to stun Kandrafon. Didn't get the stun, unfortunately. And yeah, at this point, let me think about this. We do have increased accuracy, so I'm actually going to blast the Duchess, so we get the AoE fear on the others. I think that's going to work quite nice. We'll hit Kandrafon here. Oh no, we triggered a counterattack. Ah, we're fine. We're good. Yeah, you know what? We could actually land decreased accuracy potentially with increased accuracy on her. She did resist it. Okay. Let's try it now. His A2, right? Big hit. Decreased speed. Going to steal some turn meter. Can potentially ignore defense. Do we go for Kandrafon, just get rid of him? I think we probably should get rid of the Kandrafon. 95k right there, big smack, and we come back around for a turn. Now we don't have increased accuracy. Let's try see if we can land a freeze on Duchess. We didn't, but man, it's an absolutely slamming hit. We do, of course, have lots of debuffs on her. We've increased her cooldown, hopefully of her revive. We shall see. We'll increase our attack again, getting ready. We're going to True Fear them. Well, they resisted it. Okay, no increased attack, no revive from Duchess, so we strip the buffs. I think we can actually, again, turn meter boost with Arbiter, and let's go in and smack her. Big hits right there. We actually get the unkillable. So that actually went really well. Obviously, we're playing on manual. We're taking our time looking at it. But this was a very scary team, and hopefully that was a cool showcase of more of a late game team with Yakarl. So can he do damage? He can do big damage, but I think the big thing about him in this composition here, we saw a couple of really nice things. Number one, obviously, team with really high potential resistance, right? You know, Duchess Mithrala, the highest resist champion in the game pretty much with her passive turned on. Yakarl's able to come in and he's able to land that AoE freeze. I think it was particularly clutch against that +3 Candrafon. Very scary. We were able to freeze Candrafon. That's a really big deal. So that's something he can do that's really nice. Actually, let's throw in the same team here because I am curious. This is weaker team power, but I'm curious here. One problem with freeze. We just saw it work really well. One problem is that Sifi can remove freeze. We'll see, though. We can probably, with Romantu, actually, we're probably going to turn off her passive. Yeah, we are. And then we're going to be able to freeze. He actually one-shots Rotos because of that. And, yeah, that's pretty much going to do that, I think. We can land some of this stuff here. Let's just slam the Sifi. Okay. Turn meter, boost him up. And we should really smack Sifi. 200,000 damage there against Sifi. 200,000. Boom. You can see that second hit from him. Because it triggers the ignore defense. If he freezes on the first hit, the second hit, I believe then hits much harder because they're frozen. But he's able to do plenty of damage. We've obviously got him in really good gear here. But it's sort of that combo. So that's sort of team 1. And it works really nicely. Let's see team 2. Gonna be awkward here. Do we have any speed teams on the test server right now? Wait, hang on. That was... No. So the Sifi's really a big problem because Sifi removes freeze. Sifi's a huge problem. A really big problem. Any traditional sort of speed teams? I'm not sure if we do have it. Here's a traditional speed team. Okay. So this is a good opportunity to test out team number 2. In fact, we didn't even properly test team number 1 because I really need Romantu to compete against these sorts of defenses, unfortunately. Team number 2 actually does have Romantu. Could we switch out Romantu? We could switch out Romantu if we want to for this team. We could put in Gaius. Sure, that works fine. Let's put in Gaius. My gleeful friend. Probably my favorite champ at the moment. So let's go in here. So with this team we're not as fast. We're going to be using another freeze champion. So in this case, we're going to be using Torment, and we want to see what sort of stuff we're actually faster. Okay. We want to see what we can do. Do we want to... Right, let's throw this one so we can hopefully see some of the freezing. Here we go. Okay, that really wasn't as good as I hoped. There's some freezes. All right, cool. So the freezes come in. This is what we were hoping to see. Here we go. Let's just boost us up. So hopefully we get in on time. Okay, here we go. Oh, no, she outran the freeze. Gosh darn it, that's frustrating. I was hoping to come in and see how hard we could hit with this A2 against that Arbiter who is frozen, but she is too fast. So I'll come in. We land it. Number 1, he absolutely smacks right there. Absolutely smacks. And he's the other 2 frozen. So it doesn't even matter what they do. He's going to come in and he is going to rip them apart. So he's very strong. I think he's very strong with... We could work against this team. Let's set up a team here to fight against this one. Okay, let's put in something. Hopefully she's geared on the test server. I did re-gear her recently. Yeah, she's geared. Okay, let's put in a cleanser so we can survive their torment. This one could be kind of interesting because his passive might start benefiting him the more people who are frozen. So we're going to try freeze them up. Hopefully they're going to mostly miss their turns. Bam, he comes in and he absolutely slams them. And yeah, it's with that added benefit. If they survive, they're going to be frozen. So here's the thing. He obviously isn't Trunda level nukes, right? But he nukes pretty damn hard, you know? His nuke is absolutely acceptable. Like, it absolutely does work. He has really good base attack, which is part of what makes that work well. I do have him in real good gear here, over 6k attack, 240% crit damage. Obviously, you know, there's content creators out there that could be pushing, you know, 6, maybe even 7k attack, 280 or even 300% crit damage, you know, if they have him powered. You know, you could do some crazy stuff, but like, he is pumping out crazy damage. He hits really hard. That utility is great too. Even if your gear is not as good as this, his utility is so good. There's other champs you could definitely combo with him. For example, one I don't have is Gurgo. Gurgo has an AoE buff strip that has a chance to freeze as well. So he's going to give you buff stripping and freezing. That's going to be really powerful. Just any champs in general that are providing freeze. You could early on, you could be using something like Shiramani, who's going to do an AoE freeze that fills her turn meter, and she's going to start healing and stuff like that. So you can work those champions in. They're going to have really good synergy with him. The other place I do want to show him, because unfortunately we're not in the correct Doom Tower rotation for me to show you this, but if you check out, I've got videos on Dark Fae before, and he works against Dark Fae really well basically you get your Yakarl, you bring him in. You might want to build him faster for Dark Fae. In fact, you definitely would. Swap those attack boots for speed boots. Have him lock out his A3 until you get to the boss. Then he opens up against the Dark Fae. She copies your team, and then Yakarl will just one-shot them. Boom. Then he'll come in the next round, and he'll start stealing her turn meter. He'll start laying decreased speed on Dark Fae, increasing his own speed as well. You will need him with about 350 accuracy for that, right? So you want him faster and more accuracy. Basically, he doesn't need anywhere near as much damage to one-shot a squishy team you're going to bring against Dark Fae. You'd want him to be, maybe even the fastest champ on your team, 220-ish speed or something. You'd want him to have about 350 accuracy, and then apart from that, you are good. You're Gucci. Let's just show him off here a bit in the faction crypt as well, because why the heck not? Let's go in. And in Faction Crypt, I think he's actually really, really solid for this. He's going to really speed up your Barbarian run. You're going to have Sylve the Drakes in here already. I've got War Maiden in as well. One thing I don't have in this Faction Crypt is a good increased attack, but we're going to see Yakarl. By default, actually, right there, he does open up with his A2, so you might want to change that. In fact, we almost definitely should change that. So he'd open up with his A3 instead, with his AoE. But I mean, it's one of those things. It's often better in this longer form content to use your 3-turn cooldown first, which is what he's doing, because he'll give you more uptime. And he's going to get a lot of turns. You can see his A1 is really slamming the damage right here. Sylve's going to be locking them out. Yakarl should be back around to his A4 in a second. Whabam! And he is just ripping through this crypt, without increased attack on, no problem. Yakarl, boom, almost 200k right there. And he's going to be really good against this boss as well, even with just that 200 accuracy. Which is really helpful. The freezes are going to help a bit with those side adds. So it's all good, right? It's going to be a really great combo. So yeah, honestly, Yakarl the Scourge, is he good? I think he's actually a great champion. He's a fantastic champion. I don't think he is as good as, the absolute top tier nukers like Hefrak and Leorius and all the rest. But I think he's a really good champ overall. I think people have really underestimated Yakarl in general because he doesn't have the absolute top tier nukes. But as you can see, I think in Platinum he can work okay. He does have a real problem with Sifi though, so in Platinum that will be a struggle. I think all the way up to the top of Gold 5 though, this guy's going to be a monster. He's Void Affinity, which is fantastic, so he can safely hit every single affinity you run into because he lands that freeze, even if they have reaction accessories. Even if they have a Candraphon that, your magic nukers are going to be weak hitting, or your Candraphon might survive with his passive, Yakarl can still make it work. He can still pull it through, which is really, really good. Yeah, I've just been really impressed by him. He's great for Dark Fae as well. He's going to smash you Barbarian Crypt. He's worth building. Is he worth booking or not? It's going to depend on you. I'm not rushing to book mine out on the live servers because he's giving me a nuker, which is not something I exactly need right now. But yeah, that was actually two minutes. 2 minutes, we clear through it. You can see Yakarl obviously is doing all of the damage. No surprise there. But yeah, I think he's great. He's a really solid nuker. When you think about it, it's a guaranteed champion from the clan shop. You can just save up and you can buy him after a few months of saving. I think for that, he's absolutely well worth it. Like he's really good. He's a great reward. He has a cool background. Yeah, like I said, he's not S+ tier. But I think he's a solid A tier champion. I think he's solid A tier champion. He combos well if you got freeze champions. He will struggle in that late game arena. But I mean, hey, even so, look at that irresistible freeze against Mithrala. Mithrala can't resist it. Don't discount him completely. Don't discount Yakarl, because Yakarl, he can absolutely do some work for you. He definitely can. There you go, guys. Yakarl the Scourge. Let me know what you think of this champion. Were you impressed with his performance here today? Were you unimpressed? Have you been buying him in the clan shop? Are you looking forward to getting him? Let me know. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.